I want to show you these pictures um, that I saw on Nick Humphrey's timeline, taken in Costa Rica. Um, First one taken in 1986 at a place where they were, capturing, studying insects. And the second one is 2019. And as you can see, that is where we are at as far as the number of the population of insects that we are losing. That's Costa Rica, a tropical area, which should have, a super high volume of insects. And that doesn't look like many insects at all now in 2019. Of course, this is going on all over the planet. People are reporting no bugs on their windshields anymore, no bugs in their yards, or very few. We don't have June bugs anymore. There used to be June bugs all on the screen of the door, fighting to get in. June bugs everywhere. I haven't seen one June bug this year. I don't think I've seen a June bug for, I'm gonna say at least 2 or 3 years. They're gone. The bees, we don't have many bees, and they are very lethargic and very sick. I've seen a few bees trying to pollinate my flowers, and they're barely moving, so they're not doing well. So I'm going to bring you two stories that should be frightening enough for a Thursday evening. They're both from Common Dreams. Both these stories. This is from July 9th, 2019. Completely terrifying study warns carbon-saturated oceans headed towards tipping point that could unleash mass extinction event. Once we're over the threshold, you're dealing with how the Earth works, and it goes on its own ride. The continuous accumulation of carbon dioxide in the planet's oceans, which shows no sign of stopping due to humanity's relentless consumption of fossil fuels, is likely to trigger a chemical reaction in Earth's carbon cycle similar to those which happened just before mass extinction events. According to a new study, MIT geophysics professor Daniel Rothman released new data on Monday showing that carbon levels today could be fast approaching a tipping point threshold that could trigger extreme ocean acidification similar to the kind that contributed to the Permian-Triassic mass extinction that occurred over 250 million years ago. Rothman's new research comes 2 years after he predicted that a mass extinction event could take place at the end of this century. Cross your fingers for that one. Since 2017, he has been working to understand how life on Earth might be wiped out due to increased carbon in the oceans. Rothman created a model in which he simulated adding carbon dioxide to oceans, finding that when the gas was added to an already stable marine environment, only temporary acidification occurred. Only temporary. Is there a clue in there for anybody? Anybody? When he continuously pumped carbon into the oceans, however, as humans have been doing at greater and greater levels since the late 18th century, the ocean model eventually reached a threshold which triggered what MIT called a cascade of chemical feedbacks, or excitation, causing extreme acidification and worsening the warming effects of the originally added carbon. Over the past 540 million years, these chemical feedbacks have occurred at various times, Rothman noted, but the most significant occurrences took place around the time of 4 out of the 5 mass extinction events, and today's oceans are absorbing carbon far more quickly than they did before the Permian-Triassic extinction, in which 90% of life on Earth died out. The planet may now be at the precipice of excitation, Rothman told MIT News. On social media, one critic called the study's implications about life on Earth completely terrifying. The study, which was completed with support from NASA and the National Science Foundation, also notes that even though humans have only been pumping carbon into the oceans for hundreds of years rather than thousands of years, it took For volcanic eruptions and other events to bring about their extinctions, the result will likely be the same. Once we're over the threshold, how we got there may not matter, Rothman told MIT News. Once you get over it, you're dealing with how the Earth works and it goes on its own ride. Other scientists said the study, which will be published this week in the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences, represents a clear call for immediate action to drastically reduce the amount of carbon that is being pumped into the world's oceans. Climate action groups and grassroots movements have long called on governments to impose a moratorium on fossil fuel drilling, which pumps about 1 billion metric tons of carbon into the atmosphere every year. We already know that our CO2 emitting actions will have consequences for many millennia, says Timothy Lenton, a professor of climate change and Earth systems science at the University of Exeter. This study suggests those consequences could be much more dramatic than previously expected. If we push the Earth systems too far, Lenton added, then it takes over and determines its own response. Past that point, there will be little we can do about it. And some people think that this is where we are already at.